Hi there, welcome back to my channel Solilog Quest, and this is, as you know, the series called Gist, whereby I discuss quickly the key takeaways from the book that I read, or anything else that is worth your time and mine. A quick video log with some towns around I travel, and make this video along with some thoughts on my mind and questions that I pose, or anything interesting as a nugget that you could use or I could use later on or right now. With that in mind, I let me share this. Name of this book is Investment Biker by Jim Rogers. So Jim Rogers happened to be somebody who started or co-founded the Quantum Fund with George Soros back in the 70s. And by the time he was 37, he had already retired, made enough money apparently on the Wall Street, and then he thought of taking a road trip across the world. And it so happens that he's somebody who's been a Vietnam vet. He's studied history from Yale, philosophy, politics, and economics from the Oxford University. He's been a Wall Street top honcho. He's been a guest professor ever since, and at Columbia Business School, and he's hosted shows and he's been guest uh, at many other TV shows as well, talking about investments and finance. So one would expect that he would talk about investment, mundane financial stuff and investment as such. But here's the deal: this guy goes on around 1990s, 1990 to 1992. He goes on an expedition on his bike with a friend of his, a female friend of his, and preparing all the things, how he manages that, and he goes right from the eastern edge of Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, Western Pacific edge, and at Japan, and then goes into Russia through Siberia. He obviously, while on this journey, he crosses Europe, Eastern Europe, Turkey, then going into the whole Central Asia, Turkmenistan, and all those Azerbaijan, and then parts of Western China, yeah, Uyghurs. He covers Rumki, and I don't know what all. I mean, a lot of places. Somehow crosses the whole Gobi Desert, and then manages to reach Beijing. From there, he goes on to his journey to Japan, then to the easternmost part of Russia. From there, he gets into Siberia and the towns and places over there, and then he gets to Moscow. From there, he changes tack and then goes down to uh, where was it? Africa. Yeah, I mean, the whole African continent. Then he goes to Australia. Then from Australia, he goes to the southernmost tip of the South American continent, Del Toro, whatever the name of the place is, and Figo del Toro. From there, he does this Pan Am highway going up north on the Southern American continent, and from there he gets into Texas to somewhere in New York. All right, that is the whole journey. While even talking about it is so tiring, he has covered around 70 odd thousand miles, 22 months, and a lot of ups and downs throughout his journey. So I was looking at this book from very many perspectives, and specifically, I'm not interested per se on his takes on finance and investment, or not. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I agree with all of them, but he does have an outlook from that of a pro-capitalist mindset, and criticizing socialism and communism all the way, hands down. So one would have an argument on that front that some parts of capitalism are good and some parts of socialism and communism are good, while the general feel in the world is that yes, the socialist and communist sort of governments have had ended up in ruins, and there's a whole argument. We all agree, we all know that. So I'm not going into that part of it. What really amazed me is the whole journey he took. He retired by the time like he was 37, so which meant that he had enough money. I mean, the quantum fund is one of the largest funds, anyways. So the money was not the problem. The motivation has to be from within the person, and that is the part that really made an impact on me and influenced me. That's the kind of spirit I don't particularly have. And that spirit also includes the ability to take risk. I don't think many of us have done this or can do this because there were a lot of challenges, not just procedural, not about putting a lot of money as well. It took a lot of cost to get this endeavor, to pursue this endeavor, but it was also a lot of physical risk. You had to be through a lot of corrupt countries with corrupt governance, police checkpoints, and social unrest in certain countries, and how foreigners are looked upon. The whole experience he shared of China, the way China is closed to foreigners, or there's a stigma around that. And specifically the fact that he's talking, the context of this book is around 1990 to 1992, and a lot has happened during that time. Russia was going through its own challenges, and East Europe was going through its challenges. China was coming about. it was opening its borders, but it was still heavily, you know, prejudiced and suspicious of foreigners. And similarly, the case in African continent, there was so much turmoil and legacy, exploitative legacy of the colonialists, and that left a lot of social unrest in African countries, which were very visible when he was there because they were in ruins. And so by the time, of course, he reaches South Africa, he's had got to observe a lot. He does provide good insights as to how to look at countries and places and economy and people and the general demeanor, their day to day mundane lives, and the way they look at prices at the ground level, and how that can be very insightful for an investor sitting far away from the ground realities in ivory towers in Wall Street. That part is really amazing because that is not taught per se in business schools. So that is one part. And the second part, as I already discussed, is the ability to just go out, take risks. And another part is the physical capability to be able to take that much fatigue, different terrains, different weather conditions. They had slipped and fallen and bruised and, from the bikes and gotten hurt a lot. All that is covered in this amazing book, 22-month journey. It is almost like a thriller. We have a lot of podcasts and streaming shows these days, but books are going to be books. Or maybe it's just my bias speaking, but I think I have a bias coming from a place of reasonable, belief that yeah, there is something about books. It has a pace of its own, and it has an ability of detailing which sometimes the visual media or the content cannot cover. So you have to go through those 300, 400 pages worth of pain if somebody finds it. But I mean, somebody like me would rather be more comfortable to finish this book in, let's say, 6 hours or 7 hours, and then spread over a day and a half or two, and rather than consuming it as a content. Because content has its space and the books have their space, so both have to be, balanced out. uh, I would recommend something like this. However, hold on. So there is another part of this book. In a way, it's almost like a sequel because I guess he did not have enough. So in 1999, Jim Rogers again ventures out for another, uh, world trip. You can't even call it a road trip; it's a world trip. And this time, the next time, he does it in a car. And then he comes back, and then the whole travelogue, the travelogue and video log that we so like today, these guys have done and dusted with it. These guys are the OGs of these travelogues and reels and videos and all that in a different form, of course. And he came back and wrote a book called Adventure Capitalist. And I've got my hands on that book as well. I'm so excited to read that and get through that as well. Uh, I am suspecting that it's going to be a bit of a repeat, but it's going to be worth those nuggets. I'm not a investor. I'm remotely not even connected to it, but it's good to keep those thoughts handy. The approach, I think that's the key. The way to look at things is something a person who's half brain like me and not as smart. I always rely on the intelligence of others, and I take and I kind of nibble at such nuggets, and I keep them with myself in my notes and through these. And I've started doing these video logs and podcasts as well, so that I can always come back to these and then just go through them quickly, whatever those nuggets were. Uh, so yeah, I mean, you've got to look at the ground level of the place that you're living in. The What are the people saying? Like for example, once he was around, I think in Hong Kong or somewhere, and or Japan maybe, and then people were talking about the fact that the market had already corrected about 30% or so. I don't know the numbers, but and then people were betting that it's going to go up, it's going to go up. But then he found correlations between things which were very, very simplistic and very rational. So for instance, he picks up the data around the golf club membership prices, and then he figures out if people are willing to pay higher and higher and higher prices for golf club membership, things must be okay, things must be looking rosy for the top executives and all those investors and all that. And they must be gung-ho, and they obviously very shrewd about their money, so they must be gung-ho about the markets going up and the investments going up. So he he deducted from that the market is still in a heated state and there has to be more correction. Well, lo and behold, it turns out that there was further correction to that same magnitude. uh, Something like that. Another big thing that he has in almost like a feather in his cap is the Austrian market. And he kind of wrote an article and sent the alarm bells ringing all over that Austrian market would buzz because of the kind of fundamentals it had at the point in time, which he found from the ground realities while being in Austria. Again, lo and behold, it turns out that the Austrian market was buzzing in a couple of years, I guess, after he wrote that article and report or whatever it was. So these are the things. And similarly, in African continent, he's had several experiences how and why the economies would grow or not grow. What are the ways you can look at it? What the corruption's happening? The way the people are looking at commodities per se. What would interest them? Where would it go? He gives an example of De Beers in South Africa and diamonds, and why would diamonds be worth so much or not. Demand and supply. We read a lot on demand and supply in economics 101, but then on ground level, how people actually uh, respond to prices and supply and demand is very interesting. And the fact that he was on the road and be able to showcase them through his experiences, and a very interesting travelogue, I think that's really original firstly, and uh, refreshing, very interesting. It keeps you hooked. You're not bored like you're bored sitting in a college lecture classroom. So I like this. I like this mode of education, and I really enjoyed this book. So I mean, he does talk about those countries and those conditions that he experienced and he kind of observed, especially let's say the situations in towns and cities in Russia. While there's a lot of concentration in Moscow and areas around Moscow, but the rest of it, the Siberian expanse, is just a wasteland. And similarly, a lot of countries in Africa, they're struggling through these dictatorial change of hands that keep happening every now and then. So he does make a case on the need for capitalism and democracy in a way, and then he kind of refers it back also to US and criticizing certain things around the current situation and milieu in US or the Western countries per se, whereby their mistakes are nothing new, and they're quite a bit of a pattern of governments all around, visible and witnessed in history, why they make mistakes, assuming the power of the currency and the change in policies and pandering to one section, and then it all blows up in their face before they even know it. So that part is really interesting. I mean, he's definitely made a case around why and how the conditions in Russia are not good, or any other socialist or communist country, even China, the history of China, and the struggles they had to go through, or even Japan, and for that matter, the policies they had, which caused the currency to kind of devalue. So all in all, I mean, these things are something. As I said, he keeps you hooked while there is a parallel backdrop of his travel. Let's say in Samarkand, cities that were historic, are historic. They were large centers of trade and commerce, and then kind of went into oblivion while he's on the road. And that is amazing. I mean that's the best way of education, I think. So with that, I would say this is a pretty damn good book. I'm just lucky I found it in reference notes of some other thing that I was kind of reading, and chanced upon it. And I'm just glad I went through it. And it's a bit of an experience in itself. I love geography, so getting to understand the road trip, or sort of a solo travel, how that pans out, and somebody's actually gone ahead and done it, and he's a finance guru as well. That is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing combo in itself. So with that, I think that's what this book was about. Hope you like it. If you get a chance to read it, please do, and make your own assumptions and learnings and takeaways from this. And we'll see the next one what it is like. I'm sure the next one is going to be amazing as well. Stay tuned for that. I will try and finish that as soon as I can and be back with some things to talk about on that as well. Uh, Thank you for joining in. Thank you for the support coming in. I got another subscriber, another precious subscriber, and I'm trying to keep up with the reading the books and all that I can, while managing my other commitments as well. So please let the love and support keep flowing in, and please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate that. Well, until next time, have a good one.